Welcome to the show. As you see, Sudan is seeing a lot of media coverage since the RSF's capture of Al-Fashir on October 26, after 18 months of blockade that devastated the area. People are hungry. We're seeing now house-to-house arrests, searches, arbitrary detentions, summary executions, and lots of gruesome attacks on people and property. Pictures and videos show wanton killing now spreading in Al-Fashir and adjacent areas. So now to talk on this issue, I have invited Abdallah Hussain. He's a Sudanese journalist based in Sudan, currently working to cover the conflict. Formerly, he worked as a news anchor at Qanat Balad. It's a TV channel in Sudan. He is now a freelance journalist working with TRT World, Al Jazeera, Press TV, and other media organizations, and he does a lot of covering on the conflict. He also creates content for social media highlighting the problem in Sudan. He talks to various media outlets covering the dire situation on Al-Fashir now. So just would like to say thank you for participating in our podcast. Please, for the people who know much about the Sudanese conflict, please give us the background, the historic background on the Sudanese conflict. How has the civil war come about? Why is Sudan in turmoil? And why are we seeing the Sudanese being killed and massacred in droves? What's the problem? Just give us a basic understanding of the conflict.
Yes, first of all, Ishaq, thank you so much for having me. And the Sudanese conflict, maybe the starter of that is the Sudanese revolution. I believe everyone might heard of the Sudanese revolution that ousted the president Omar al-Bashir and his regime, which lasted for 30 years since 89 to 2018. The revolution started in 2018, December. They ousted Omar al-Bashir in 2019 in April. Then the turmoil started since the moment where the junta, the Sudanese armed forces, has managed to seize power, and they ousted Omar al-Bashir by the order of the people of Sudan, the one who are protesting outside the army's HQ. And since then, there has been some issues that coming and going, forth and back. We started with the ousting of Omar al-Bashir. Then after that, with the committee which has been created by the Sudanese armed forces took place and created their own council, which took the leadership of the country, in addition to the leadership of Sudan's government and the Sudanese armed forces. Then after that, the participation of one individual came to be known, and his name is Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo Hemeti. He is the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, or what was being called in the early 2000s is the Janjaweed. They were a force that created by by previous president Omar al-Bashir. He created this group to suppress the rebellion of groups in Darfur region, which were rebelling against Omar al-Bashir and his regime. So he created this group to suppress this rebellion. Then in 2018 and 2019, when Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo joined the army in ousting Omar al-Bashir, he was designated as deputy head of the Sovereignty Council, with General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan being named as the commander in chief of the Sudanese armed forces, and also the head of the Transitional Sovereignty Council. Then after that, the period of the Transitional Council started with General al-Burhan and General al-Hemeti on top of the leadership of Sudan. Then political factions have been trying to create some sort of civilian government on Sudan. So there has been some agreement between the political factions and the military and the transitional council. So the agreement was that the military will take power for the first time, the first period. Then they will move the power back to the civilians in the next period. Then there has been multiple events with what some people can call it coup. Some people would call it correctifying statements or correctifying period. You can name it whatever you want. It's depending on the faction that we're standing with. But let's call it an event that happened in 2021. where both General Burhan and General Hemeti took the civilian government down with Dr. Abdullah Hamdok, who was in power at the time, leading the Sudanese government as the prime minister of the revolution. This was his name, the prime minister of the revolution, Dr. Abdullah Hamdok. Then after that, one of the turmoils started, and the main turmoil was what was called the framework agreement. There has been a framework agreement proposed by the Sudanese political factions, which is the Forces of Freedom and Change. Then this framework agreement was just the main concern of both parties, either military or political. Most of the analysts and most of the experts who speak about this agreement will say that the military won't accept this agreement. The political factions want to impose this agreement on the people. Some of the experts also might say that this agreement, this framework agreement, might bring international influence to influence Sudan's internal decisions. It might bring some countries that want to run Sudan from the background through the political factions. So it was probably it caused some troubles at the time, and then Hemeti, in one sudden move, he moved his forces, one of his units, the rapid support forces, he moved his forces to the northern state under the pretext of foreign interference. Hemeti said that he didn't like the presence of Egyptian army in one of the army bases in the northern state, and this is an interference in the Sudanese matter, and this is a foreign invasion. While the Egyptian army was doing some typical training with the Sudanese army, it's not something new. It happens all the time in Sudan and in Egypt as well. So the presence of Egyptian army on Sudanese soil is something regular. It's an agreement between both armies, Egyptian and Sudanese. However, Hemeti took this as a pretext to attack the base on in the northern state. The Sudanese army gave him some time. They delivered a statement and they addressed Hemeti that, please, General Hemeti, you can take your forces back. You have 72 hours to take your forces back, or we can have some other means to communicate with you. Hemeti didn't adhere to the terms and conditions provided by the Sudanese army, and he continued in his rivalry with the Sudanese army. Then, in a sudden move, Hemeti declared the rebellion against the Sudanese state, but he didn't name it as a rebellion. See, Hemeti doesn't see himself as a rebel leader. He sees himself as a justifier, as someone who would bring democracy back to Sudan after several coups and several misjudgments and several injustice. He wants to bring back justice, peace, freedom, democracy back to the Sudanese people. So he decided to bring it by the gun and the forest. So he tried to assassinate. The RSF tried to assassinate the head of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, Commander-in-Chief of the Sudanese Armed Forces, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, in his residence, but they couldn't manage to do that. He managed to escape safely. Then they put a siege on the Sudanese army headquarters in the center of Khartoum, and that siege lasted for months and months. Hundreds of the Sudanese army soldiers died in that siege, defending the Sudanese army HQ in the center of Khartoum. Then after that, he tried to seize power. He tried to control Khartoum. He managed to control several regions of Khartoum. He managed to control also several regions of the country. Of course, he couldn't go to the far north or to the far east, but after all, he was based in the center of Khartoum. Then he moved to the west, also to the south. After that, the clashes started to take place. Since then, the war started between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces, and it's ignited the war in 2023, April 15th.
Yeah, that's very yeah. Thank you for describing it properly. But you see, what drives the conflict? Some people would like to see this as a conflict of ethnicity, where the ethnic hatred is they believe what drives the conflict as a whole. And others also might choose to portray this as some like a power play, like it's the people who want more political power, and they're just doing this to get more power on their hands. In your case, what really describes the source of the problem? Is it really driven by ethnic hatred or animosity of some sort, or is it more related to the political power play that has overtaken the region as a whole?
Well, of course, we cannot neglect the ethnicity issue in this conflict. There was a huge hatred driven toward the specific ethnicities, like the Masali tribe. The RSF committed a massacre against the Masali tribe. Some of them, the eyewitnesses said that there might be more than 5,000 killed in that incident in Al Janena. They killed over 5,000 of the Masali tribe. So there was some ethnicity hatred and ethnicity issues going with this conflict, but it's not the main reason. Some of the media organizations and some of the mainstream media describe the conflict in Sudan as a civil war. I believe this is a misunderstanding. It's not a civil war. What's happening in Sudan, indeed, it's not a civil war. The definition of civil war might expand to further terms, but in this case, yes, the bigger picture, yes, it might be a civil war. Like the main definition of civil war is one faction of a country or a tribe against another faction of the same country or the same tribe fighting to seize power or over any other conflict. This is the definition of a civil war, and this might be some definition. We can definitely call it like a civil war because it's not in the context. It's not a civil war. It's also not a power struggle. Yes, Hemeti is trying to seize power. He's trying to control the entire country, the entire region. He's trying to present his influence to control the entire Sudan, to become the one leader of Sudan. But it's not exactly a power struggle. So if it's not a power struggle and if it's not a civil war, how can we describe the conflict in Sudan? The conflict in Sudan is not just driven by hatred or ethnicity. It's driven by foreign interference. It's driven by foreign desires and by foreign countries using their proxies and their agents in the country, which is the RSF and their allies. So, in my place, I would name this the most term that can describe the situation in Sudan is an invasion. Yes, an invasion is the main definition of invasion means that there is another army from another country invading another country. But in this case, it can be described as an invasion because Hameti and his allies are not acting on their own. There's someone who is playing the strings from outside, from the background. So I can call this an invasion.
Okay, I was planning to raise this point a little bit more in the coming minutes, but since you've raised it, let's discuss this issue as a whole. Who are behind, which countries are behind the Sudanese massacre as it goes on right now? What do they want? Why are they doing this? And it's wanton killing, a lot of massacres going on. What possible advantage that do they want to secure by funding such type of massacres as a whole, and which actors want what type of control in Sudan, and who are these players?
Well, we can see Chad as a player in this game, but Chad is only a factor. It's only a border for the greater player in this game. And all of the evidence, all of the some of the UN reports, some of the investigative reports from investigative committees, Reuters and other media organizations, respectful media organizations, have done thorough reports, and it's all pointed at the end to one country, United Arab Emirates. We cannot deny the sponsorship that's coming from the United Arab Emirates to the RSF. I mean, at the moment, the brother of Hemeti, the one who was sanctioned by the US for procurement weaponry and supplies for the RSF, is residing in Abu Dhabi and transporting from there. Some of the Hemeti's families also residing in Abu Dhabi. So, with all the evidence and with all the weaponry boxes found in Khartoum, documents that leads to Emirati figures and Emirati soldiers, Emirati uh, 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 within the Emirati army. We cannot deny that. Yes, there is an involvement from the UAE, but the main thing here, some people might say that it's after the gold of Sudan. And yes, probably it is after the gold of Sudan. They want to seize the gold in Sudan through their proxy, through their agent, which is Hemeti, the RSF, and their allies. But it's something broader than that. See, the UAE, along with other states, are obsessed with something called the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood was in control for 30 years. And yes, they might not be ousted completely after ousting Omar al Bashir. Yes, there might be some remnant from the previous regime in the executive departments, maybe in the state departments. Yes, but it's not the same thing as the obsession seen by the UAE. The UAE cannot consider that Sudan is currently free or there is no significant influence by the Muslim Brotherhood on the country, but the UAE wants to completely eradicate the Muslim Brotherhood from the region. So this is one of the reasons, as I can see it. Another reason is that they want their influence to expand in the region. They already working on other countries, and Sudan is on their agenda, and they got their proxy, they got their agent in the game here, which is Hemeti. They were planning to put Hemeti on the top of the pyramid here as the head of the Sovereignty Council, or probably the president of Sudan. And this was clearly in the latest developments where they created an alliance called Taxis Alliance after they seized most of Darfur region. So they some sort created their own government in the western part of Sudan. This can lead to some scenario like the Libyan scenario, maybe other countries scenarios, but they wanted to create two governments. But after all, they want their proxy, they want their agent to be on the top. So they will do whatever they want to put Hemeti on the top of the pyramid.
Okay, so there are a few reports alluding to the fact that foreign fighters might have been involved in some of the killings. Is that true? Do you find that credible? Can we really say that foreign fighters are now involved in the Sudanese conflict? And if so, which soldiers from which countries are participating in these conflicts? And what are their roles specifically?
Well, according to multiple sources and multiple reports and videos shown from the capital Khartoum, there has been a lot of Chadian soldiers in the country in the first days of the war. There might be none right now. Some from Mali, some from other African countries, but the main thing is the Colombian, which has been, or even Colombia itself. Admitted that there has been some mercenaries from Colombia who has been sent to Sudan, but they don't know anything about that, and they have nothing to do with that. And they even asked for, they even yeah, proposed their apologies for the government regarding what happened with the Colombian mercenaries. I myself, I spoke with one of the leaders in the joint forces. He was the spokesperson for the joint forces for the struggle movements in Darfur during the clashes in Al-Fashir. He was there in Al-Fashir. He was killed lately last week in the RSF latest operations, but I spoke with him before, and he sent me pictures and he gave me some details. He even told me the route that the mercenaries are taking. They have been tracking the route for those mercenaries, the Colombian mercenaries. They come in patches from by a cargo plane from the UAE, Abu Dhabi, to Libya, then through Kufra, then they enter the desert, then they go directly to Niala or the outskirts of Al-Fashir. And they shared with us some videos, might be a little bit graphic, for mercenaries who have been killed in Al-Fashir with their flags and their names, their tags, even with some documents regarding their nationality and their identifications card IDs, and also there have been some leads found with them in their packs, in their tags. That leads to the UAE again and again, with weaponry again found with their position, with the stamp of Abu Dhabi on the boxes. Some weaponry, some reports showed that some weaponry belonged to Canada, some weaponry belonged to the UK. There is even some reports suggested that there are weaponry even belongs to Israel involved in the war in Sudan.
Okay, so how does the human cost look like? Let's move on a little bit more to the suffering in Sudan. What does the human cost look like now in Sudan? How are ordinary Sudanese coping with daily life amid the chaos that's ensuing in the cities? How many are estimated dead and injured? How much is the displacement? What does it look like? The famine, and also reports people are being reported of eating animal feed. Do you find this agreeable? And also, can children go to school? What does life for the ordinary people in Sudan look like amidst the conflict, especially in the conflict areas?
Yes, the people in Sudan are divided into regions now. There are those who under the Sudanese Armed Forces control, which is the Sudanese government itself. Then there are those who are still under the control of the Rapid Support Forces and their so-called government taxis in the west. They now control the entire Darfur region with its 5 states, and they are trying to seize more territory in Kurdistan region, which is adjacent to Darfur region, and by that they are trying to take all the western part of the country itself. So the people who are living in the northern states and eastern part of the country, the central part of the country, I'm not going to say that they are living 100% 100% well, and it's the same as before April 15th. But they are doing well. They are doing well at some point. But however, when it comes to the conflict zones, and specifically now in Al-Fashir and other regions beside Al-Fashir, um, life is difficult there. Life is difficult. Al-Fashir was under siege for 18 months. No food, no medicine. Healthcare services collapsed entirely. If you have any chronic disease, you cannot find um, any medicine for that. There has been also reports on the late days of the siege before the operation of the RSF, which they took Al-Fashir by the latest operation. During the siege, the Sudan Doctors Network issued a disturbing report. They said that every day we lose 3 children due to malnutrition and acute malnutrition in Al-Fashir. So it was dire, extremely dire humanitarian situation. People were dying out of hunger, out of lack of medicine, out of lack of water, out of lack of health facilities. Nothing was there. People were literally have nothing. Yes, it might be difficult even in parts of the country where under the Sudanese armed forces control or under the Sudanese government control, but it's not the same. It's not the same. I believe it might be easier over here. And I'm not saying that just because I'm living in an area under the Sudanese armed forces control, but everything is possible here. The aid services is working here. For example, the WFP is working perfectly here, providing aid for people in need, for the less fortunate. But when it comes to Al-Fashir, for example, since the siege, the WFP stated that they couldn't even reach Al-Fashir. One of the convoys for the WFP was targeted by a drone strike from the RSF, completely destroyed, including the food inside the convoys. But thank Allah, and Alhamdulillah, the drivers and the staff were completely safe. But as you can see, the entire convoy, which was going to the people in Al Fashir who were under siege, was destroyed by the RSF. So um, they were using hunger as a tool. They were weaponizing hunger specifically. Yes, they were weaponizing hunger. They wanted the people to rebel against the army, against the Sudanese government. They wanted them to see how life would be if they didn't surrender, if they couldn't let them in, if they couldn't break the siege. So what was happening in that region is completely ruthless. People were dying out of hunger. You could not provide anything to your family. no water, no food, no shelter. People are being shot just for getting any some sort of food smuggled inside North Darfur, which is specifically Al-Fashir. We witnessed one of the videos who has been verified, where the RSF executed 4 men for smuggling food inside to Al-Fashir.
Yeah, so I've seen some videos, very disturbing videos coming from Sudan, showing the killing and the massacres. I've seen people being killed. I've seen women with their children being killed. I've seen gruesome attacks on people and just executions. And these are pictures that really disgust people. Such type of cruelty is seldom seen on international media, and I know that's a very hard thing to accept, uh, considering seeing your country descend into chaos is always very hard for people to swallow. I know how hard that can be, but so what is behind this cruelty? Why would people why would like the RSF show this cruelty? Is it deliberately designed to create intimidation, or is this actually driven by deep hatred towards people of other race or towards other ethnicities? Is this really driven by hate, or is it a deliberate way of intimidating people into accepting whatever political realities that they want people to accept? So such type of cruelty is very uneasy to understand. It's very hard to understand for anyone. How would you describe it? What is driving this much gruesomeness in your opinion?
Well, so far we cannot know for sure what's going on in their minds to do such thing. What drives you to hang a woman with her children, with her babies in a tree? What drives you to shoot people just for smuggling food? What drives you to literally slaughter someone alive? What drives you to burn an entire village, an entire family? What drives you to rape ladies, women, children, babies? They raped babies in front of their families. What drives you to do such cruelty in the people of Darfur region? But it's not just ethnicity. Yes, ethnicity it's involved. Indeed, they did that with Al Masali tribe. They did that with so many tribes there for ethnicity reasons. But it's not the only reason. There might be other reasons here involved, which is intimidation. Indeed, they want to create some sort of a picture that we are fearless. We can slaughter you, with your family, with your entire tribe. We can annihilate your entire region if you didn't surrender, if you didn't pressure the army to negotiate with us, if you didn't do this, if you couldn't do that, we will come. They want you to look in the ground and surrender yourself to them, or this will happen to you. They did this in Asireha, in the center of Sudan, in Al Jazeera. They did this in the massacre of Al Junaina, the massacre of Zamzam, IDP camp. I mean, it was an IDP camp, internally displaced persons camp. The people who were inside the camp were already refugees, were already under displacement. What can you do more than that? No, they did. They have entered the camp, slaughtered everyone, and just set fire on the camp. So yes, there is hatred involved to specific ethnicities. Yes, there is influence power involved. They want to show and express their ruthlessness. They want to show people that we are tough. We're not. We don't fear anything. We can do anything. And there is also a political reason that they want to pressure the army through the people. They want the people to be in a constant fear condition. They want them to run to the army, to protest, to tell them that please go negotiate, please surrender, give them what they want. They don't fear anything. They will kill us. They will kill you. They will slaughter my family. They want people to repel against the army. They want people to accept them by fear.
Okay, so let's come to the last two questions I have for you. So, what makes the capture of Al Fasher any different from the other offensives by the RSF? Can we say this is a new stage in the genocidal massacre being committed? Why is this a worrying trend? Can this potentially divide Sudan into two countries? And do they even want this? Are the RSF aiming for any type of secession from the Sudanese state?
Well, Al-Fashir indeed is a strategic point for the RSF. Al-Fashir stood hard against, I believe it was 267 attack during the siege. The 18-month siege, Al-Fashir stood against 267 attack by the rapid support forces. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the RSF soldiers died on the outskirts of Al-Fashir. Even the mercenaries who were Colombian were killed outside Al-Fashir. The weaponry, the foreign weaponry found on the outskirts of Al-Fashir. So Al-Fashir was like a nightmare for them. They wanted to control Al-Fashir. They wanted to take Al-Fashir. They wanted to burn Al-Fashir. Their first reason here was hatred. They hate the people inside Al-Fashir because they stood for too long. They didn't surrender. I mean, 18 months 267 attacks, hundreds and hundreds of people have been killed on the in the outskirts of Al-Fashir. They wanted to revenge for their friends and their colleagues. They wanted to set an example out of Al-Fashir to show other cities what they can do to you if you stood against them, just if you stand against them, just as Al-Fashir did and the people inside Al-Fashir. So, and one more thing, Al-Fashir is a strategic city. Al-Fashir and North Darfur, it's an adjacent state to North Kordofan. So taking North Darfur entirely gives you the advantage to go to North Kordofan. If you went to North Kordofan, this gives you the advantage to come closer again to Khartoum state. So you're taking the entire western part of Sudan. This is a geographical strategic point here about Al-Fashir. Another point is Al-Fashir was the only the only stronghold remained for the army. The sixth infantry division for the army. It was in Al-Fashir, so they wanted to annihilate the army from the region. They wanted to take the entire Darfur region under their control. They already had the four states of Darfur, and the only city remained for them to take the entire Darfur region. It was El Fasher city. And by taking El Fasher 1 week ago, now the RSF have full control over the entire Darfur region with its five states, and they are trying to advance to Kordofan now after seizing the entire state, the entire five states of Darfur. Darfur isn't that small. In fact, Darfur probably like three times the area of the UK or maybe France. It's large, it's huge. So it's not a small territory, it's not a city, it's five states combined. It's amount to a country in Europe. So the RSF are trying to seize power again, but this time maybe they failed by taking the entire Sudan. So they are trying to create the illusion of a second government, and they did that. Indeed, they created their own government there with the governance of Darfur, with the presidential council, with that mirrors the council that Abdel Fattah al-Burhan is leading. Now that council is led by Hemeti as president of their presidential council for Ta'sis, with Abdelaziz al one of the rebels, as his deputy, with leaders of some political factions. They have their own ministries now. They have their own government. But of course, it's just a forum. It's just names on paper because they do not control the entire Sudan region, the entire Sudan country. They appointed a governor for Khartoum while they are staying in Darfur. So they are trying desperately to create the illusion for the international community that we are here. We, by de facto, we are here. We control probably 1/4 of Sudan, maybe 30% of Sudan now, and that gives us the authority to control Sudan and to create our own country. They even created a new emblem for the Sudanese flag with another symbol, and they issued a statement. That issued a statement last week after seizing Al-Fashir. They said that now we have authority over Fasher. Now we are in control. The city is under our control now. So every aid organization has to go through us. We are the legitimate power now in control. So they are obsessed with power. They want to look strong. They want to show off their power to the world. And I believe they already done that. They succeeded in showing their power to the world, but in a negative way. They showed the international community that they can slaughter people just to have power. So they did manage to obtain power. They did manage to take the entire Darfur region. They did manage to declare their own government, but at what price? They slaughtered 2,000 people in the first 48 hours of taking al-Fashir. This was the price. And we don't have any specific stats yet regarding the rest of the days. It's been 8 days now. We only have a stat for the first 2 days. The videos that's coming from Al-Fashir stopped after the fourth day. So we don't have any data that coming from Al-Fashir. We don't know what those people are doing in Al-Fashir right now. The only thing remains is the aid agencies, the aid organizations that giving us updates on a daily basis regarding the refugees and the displaced persons. Also, some statements that coming from local and international organizations. We have the coordination of resistance committees of Al-Fashir. We have Sudan Doctors Network. We have the IOM. We have some of the UN agencies that providing us with a statement of what's going on in Al-Fashir. But so far, Al-Fashir and the entire Darfur region is completely in the dark.
Okay, so coming back to my last question, looking ahead, what do you think could bring stability back to Sudan? What can the international community do? And have they been doing enough, especially considering the International Criminal Court's action until now? Do you find that enough? The last time that the intention to seek arrest in West Darfur case had a lot of limitations. And what do you want the world to do? Here, please take the opportunity and speak to the world. What can the world do for Sudan?
Unfortunately, we saw enough. So now I can say um, that we don't want anything from the world. See, as I can see now, from my point of view, that the world is complicit with the RSF. Most of the Western countries are complicit with the RSF. Most of the governments are complicit with the RSF. I'm not saying this from a political point of view or from any point of view. It's my personal point of view that if the Sudanese army was the one responsible for those actions, we could have seen peacekeepers in Sudan in the second day. We could have seen statements of condemnation at the same time. We could have seen marches and wolves and protests and solidarity with Sudan. But the RSF is um, is an ally, as an agent, as a proxy for one of the most influential countries on the globally right now, which is the UAE. The UAE is a strategic partner for both the UK, the US, and even for the entire Western countries. So, as we can see right now, the UN, for example, the UN Security Council issued a statement condemning what the RSF are doing in the West, in Darfur region, in the North Darfur State, specifically in Al-Fashir, the mass killings, the rapes, the sexual violence. But the question remains, so what after the statements of condemnation? It's just hollow statement of condemnations, hollow words. It's merely an ink on a paper, nothing after that. We keep hearing statements of condemnation. We keep hearing that we condemn this, we condemn that. Some of them even cannot say the name of the RSF. Some of them even, until this moment, after everything we saw in Darfur, in the center of Sudan, in any region in Sudan. Some of them cannot even point a finger to the UAE or to the RSF, accusing them directly of what they have done in Sudan. Some of them are complicit. Most of them are complicit. The West is complicit. I can say that not the entire West is complicit, but yes, most of the West is complicit with the RSF. Their silence shows everything. Their silence says everything. What I want to say to the world is that do not listen to what your politician says. Do not listen to what your government is saying. Do not listen to what your militaries are saying. Listen to your own conscience. Women are being raped. People are being slaughtered. Families are being burned alive. Children, children are being raped and burned and hanged in trees. So do not listen to anyone. Just look for yourself. See what's going on by your own eyes. Hear the screams of people in need in Darfur region right now. Hear the screams of people who are wandering the desert. We have been receiving reports of thousands of people who are roaming the deserts right now as we speak. They can't find a refuge, a safe refuge. They fled the city of Al-Fashir, fearing for themselves from the RSF, but they can't find anywhere else to seek refuge in. So they are roaming the deserts day and night. Some of them have been walking for days, days in the desert on foot with their children, with their elderly, with the women. Uh, they have been walking for days. Some of them walk even for 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers just to find a safe haven, just to find a cup of water and one piece of bread to eat. Some of them need medicine. So do not listen to the statements of condemnation. Listen to the screams of the people over there. Listen to your hearts. Stand with the people of Al-Fashir. Pray for the people of Al-Fashir. Support the right ones.
Well, I feel really sorry. I mean, we're standing at the brink of destruction of Gaza. The world has failed Gaza. What it was going on, and was going under uh, a very gruesome genocide. And now the same thing is happening in Sudan. And I hope uh, by some miracle the things change for you and for us and for everyone in the world. We've seen conflicts in one area are actually contagious. They go into another area, and it keeps the cycle of violence keeps consuming people's lives. And I hope all this wanton killing stops in Sudan. Thank you, Abdallah Hussein, for coming to the interview and being part of our podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure. Thank you.